Man goes to great trouble to acquire knowledge of the material world. He learns all the branches of mundane science. He explores the earth and even travels to the moon. Yet he never tries to find out what exists within himself.
So how do you think we recognize what our purpose is?
That's a good question. It's a slow unfolding. I mean, some people know they want to be doctors. Sometimes kids know they want to be doctors. My son had wanted to be a priest ever since he was young. And we raised him Catholic, okay? But not all my children are even practicing Catholicism, or not all my children wanted to be priest, right? But from an early age, he would practice being a priest, and he would, line us up in the hallway in chairs, and he would put an altar up, and he would get those little wafer thin, I don't know what they're called, NECCOs, those little pieces of candy that are colored that look like communion wafers. And he would be a priest and have a reading and give us all communion, and, with these little wafers. And I remember the story, his name, he grew up, his name was William Gabriel, but he went into the Benedictine monastery, and so he's a monk, but then he also became a priest, which is another secondary thing. Priest meaning that he could say mass and give out communion and those type of things, and give, marry people and unction before death, those type of things. The sacraments inside the Catholic Church. But I remember Gabriel, when he was laying on the bed, he was my child that went to bed early, and got up very early. The rest of them, are like us. They went to bed late and just got up whenever they had to. But it was a Saturday morning, and I walked into his room, and he was laying across the bed, and he had the Catholic catalog open, and it had the robes and the incense and all the paraphernalia. And I said to Gabe, Gabe, what do you love most about the Catholic Church? I said, is it the spirituality, or is it all the paraphernalia? And he goes, 50-50. And this is at age, 8, 9, 10,
Wow.
11, 12 maybe. I don't think any older than 12. He later on went to St. Bernard Preparatory School, which is also a monastery that's an hour north of Birmingham. And then he became a monk, and then he became a priest. And that was in him way before he ever got birthed into this earth. There's no question in my mind about that. He was always just down that path. So to answer your question, sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what our purpose is. But as we continue to clear the mud off of us, as you so rightly gave us that visual, then we become more in tune with our inner spirit, with our divine spirit. And as we become more in tune with our divine spirit, then our unfolding becomes more clear. And when you sit in the hand of God, if you're truly sitting in the hand of God, then God pushes you in. And it's not really a push as much as it is a call, but puts you into the opportunities that are meant for you, and the people that you meet, and the situations. And as all that continues to happen, then you continue to unfold toward your divine purpose. And, it's not divine purposes could be the lady that's behind the counter at the convenience store that smiles, and when people come in and they've had a hard day and she says a kind word to them, that's as much a purpose as anything else in this world. So it doesn't have to be some big divine grand, I'm the grand poobah, I'm running this company, or it doesn't matter. Everybody has a divine purpose. And every time we make decisions to use our energy toward our divine purpose, every time we choose life, we get closer and closer to living our divine purpose, being our divine purpose, and realizing the power and the glory and the peace that is inside of us.
You just made a really interesting point. If somebody were to ask me what my purpose was, I think the competitive side of my soul would jump out, and I would want to, articulate some big grand purpose, some quest that I had to joust after for years, But purpose, very rightly, could just be to share joy with the other humans in your space, to gift a smile or a kind word.
Yes.
I don't know why we get so competitive with that. Or maybe it's not we in the broader, maybe it's just me.
Well, you do have a competitive nature.
Yeah, just a little.
We all know that. But the world, that's another thing that the world, focuses us on. Like, this is a competition.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a fucking competition. Okay. It's a fun game. And do we test our skill sets against each other? Sure, because that sharpens us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're playing basketball and you become really, really good, then you become a star. Okay, what does a star do? It gives off light.
The thing about stars, certainly in the sports arena, they certainly get a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people fail to understand the massive amount of work and sacrifice that goes into creating that sports performance. People sacrifice their lives to that one goal.
Exactly.
It is not just magic. It doesn't just appear.
No. And that's the thing about being on this earth. It's this gravity thing. It takes hard work, right? And the people that focus their energy, right? I mean, those basketball stars, how many hours have they played basketball and practiced their skills and all those type of things?
Stood there and shot hoops for hours.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many stories about Michael Jordan doing that.
Yes.
And that made a real impression on me when I read about that, about the amount of work. Because you think things should just come naturally. If it's your purpose, it should just be easy. And apparently that's not the case.
Everything has to be honed. When you make a mirror, okay, out of metal, you take a piece of raw metal and then you basically sand it, okay? You put grooves in it, okay? And the first passive grooves are real big and thick. Rock polishing is like this. When you polish rocks, I had a rock polishing kit when I was a child. I still love rock polishing. Not that
something satisfying about that.
It's something satisfying. But you take a rock and you put it in a tumbler and you start with coarse grit, okay? And that makes the large scratches in it. And then after you tumble it for days or weeks, then you take that grit out and you put in a more medium grit, right? And then you tumble it, okay? And then and that puts medium scratches in it, okay? And then you take that grit out and then you put fine grit in, okay? And that makes the scratches smaller, okay? So we're going from large to medium to small. but the scratches get smaller. And then the final grit is actually polish. It's a powder, okay? And that tumbles. And then when you get done with this tumbling process, then the stone is smooth, okay? And you can rub your finger across it, where before it had little jags and things, you know, just like a regular rock would. And that is the process that we go through here. And it's a slow process, but it takes time. It takes energy. It takes commitment. It takes focus.
Can I get down to the fine polish stage out?
Absolutely. Just keep putting the hours in. What is it, Seth Godwin or somebody wrote that book about the number of hours it takes to become competent at something? It's like 12,000 hours or 10,000, whatever it is. But that's the same thing. That's the same thing in your spiritual life. It's the same thing in your work life. But the spiritual life, it's that symphony that you have to create in yourself. And you can still have this beautiful inner life and have this beautiful business life or this beautiful anything life that you want, being a healthcare worker or a teacher or fireman or a policeman or whatever. It doesn't matter. Astronaut, an engineer, pick something. And that takes time and energy too. But if you do the inner work, that just exudes and makes better the outer work that you're doing.
You know, you told me a story a while back about this massive experience that you had, and a Kundalini experience. I wasn't particularly familiar with the word, so maybe you could explain what that means and share your story, because it's pretty powerful.
It's a pretty powerful experience. I was on my spiritual journey. I had a friend of mine who came to me, and wasn't a friend, this person that came to me in kind of an odd way. But I was looking for some type of mentor. And she was mentoring me a little bit. She really just kind of challenged a lot of my in-the-box thinking that I had, okay? And I was sitting in a cafe downtown Birmingham on 2nd Avenue with her, and we were just having lunch. And I don't know that she had helped me she'd allowed me to get to this point. I don't know that it was her exact coaching or her energy that kind of got me over the hump. I'm not exactly sure how that all works, to be honest with you. But anyway, we were sitting in this little cafe having lunch and coffee, whatever. And all of a sudden, my hands, they started trembling. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I could just feel this energy start to like surge up through my body. And I looked at my friend, and she had fire shooting like 2 inches long out of her pupils.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, what the F is going on here, right?
Right?
And I can't control my shaking. And I looked around the cafeteria. Everybody had fire shooting out of their eyes. And I felt I was there, but it was almost like I could like beam up behind myself and see everything. And it all felt beautiful. And it all felt completely and totally perfect. Didn't matter if somebody just spilled a drink or anything, it all just felt like it was unfolding in perfection. And I had no idea what was going on. And this energy surged in me for about 30 days. Started off super strong, like I just explained. And then over the course of about 30 days, it finally kind of weaned itself down. But I was barely sleeping. I had no idea what was going on. The fire in the eyeballs slowly went away. That light just lasted a couple days, but that was plenty.
Right. Well, so you're sitting there in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And you start having this experience. Do you tell the person you're with? Like, how do you navigate that?
It felt unexplainable. It felt like something that didn't need to be explained. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences. A lot, like 6, 8, 10 maybe. And it's like if you go to Six Flags, you ride a roller coaster, and then you try to explain to somebody that's never seen a roller coaster what that experience feels like. Okay?
Fair.
You can explain it, but until you experience it, you really can't explain it. Okay?
It's like asking somebody what something tastes like.
Exactly.
Or what color you're looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, explain to me what an orange tastes like,
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes like an orange. What else is there? So, and I didn't feel a need to explain it. I was just watching it. And it was so overwhelming that I didn't even know what to say. But I remember giving her a big hug as she left. And I was anybody that walked anywhere close to me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with that person. I'm in love with that person. I'm in love with fucking everybody and everything. It was gorgeous. It was exhausting. It was terribly exhausting. My wife didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with myself. I went to another friend of mine and she told me I should ground. I didn't know what grounding was at the time. And it was beautiful. And I've had a couple of them since, never that long and that powerful. But that ability I remember I was at Nine Gates Mystery School and I was just standing in the cafeteria one day, and a lot of stuff gets released at Mystery School, which is beautiful and hard. And I was just standing there like in this little cafeteria area where we were all eating, and I picked my tray up and I walked over, and all of a sudden it was just like that same experience. Not as powerful, but it was just like everything was unfolding. It was like I was just watching everything, like I was a director in a movie or something. It was all perfect. It was all love. It's just peaceful and silent. And I know that that's what it's like to be in the presence of God, the true presence of our true power. And I didn't know the word Kundalini at the time. I had no idea. And I was, I'm always reading spiritual stuff and read thousands of spiritual books, or over 1,000 spiritual books. And I was reading through a book like 3 months later, and I don't even know what book it is. I'm sure I've got it on my shelf. But I was reading through this book, and this person started talking about this experience, and they called it Kundalini. And I'm like, OMG, oh my God, this is what I went through. Other people have experienced this. And then I started looking up Kundalini and reading about it and all this stuff. And I don't know that I have any more better understanding, but I know that other people have those experiences. I also know that I don't know why we have experiences at certain times. I think that as you start to uncover and you take the mud off, you probably tend to have you're open to having experiences, but why they happen at a particular time and what that experience is about, and what it needs to be said into the world about it. I don't really know the timing and understand why all that happens.
How did it make you feel to find out that other people had been through that too?
Relieved.
Yeah.
Relieved and happy that I wasn't crazy, because when you're going through it, you can feel really crazy. You feel, you go like, am I ever going to go back to normal? Is this what life is like? You just, and it's hard to be in the world too, like to go do your job. And I was running a company.
Oh.
And like, I still have to go to work. I still get up, put a suit on and make business decisions and make payroll and sales and all that type of stuff. I think I want to segue too into another experience I had. And that was, it was one summer. My oldest son was, he was 15 at the time. But in the beginning of the summer, I woke up one day and my emotions were completely gone. I couldn't feel happiness. I couldn't feel sadness. I love music. I'd play a song, nothing. No resonance with the song. I knew that I loved my wife and my children, but I had no love for them. I would go through the motions and take care of them like I always did, but I had no love for anything. And it lasted 3 months. And in the middle of that whole summer, I'm like, I didn't know that my emotions could be taken away. And that's the beautiful part about that is now I have a much better understanding that our emotions are a gift from God. And they're a particular thing we may have emotions on the other side. I don't know. Haven't really delved into that very much, but they're definitely powerful here. And they're something that needs to be balanced and mastered. Just like Jesus, we talked about in the temple, there's a time to be angry and then there's a time to hold people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I really understood that emotions are one of the gifts that we get when we come here. And so I went through the whole summer without emotions, and it was really scary. And then my son took the car out in the middle of the night, whatever that 3-day holiday is, like in the beginning of September. Is that
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day.
Uh-huh.
I get all those 3-day things mixed up, Labor Day, Memorial Day, I don't know. But he took the car out. He had a friend spending the night. We were leaving the next morning, like Friday or Saturday morning, whatever it was, to go to Callaway Gardens over in Georgia. I think that's what we were doing. And I flew hot air balloons at the time, and we were taking my balloon over to a balloon festival, and him and his friends spent the night in the room over the garage we call the playroom, and they were 15, and in the middle of the night they took the car out and had a terrible accident. And at like 6 o'clock the next morning, there's a sheriff knocking on our door. And the sheriff said, are you Bill Powler? Yes. And, your son's been in a terrible is your son, Troxel? And I said, yes. And he said, your son's been in a terrible accident. I said, no, my son's in the playroom. And I looked past the sheriff and I saw my daughter's car was gone. And I go, oh my gosh. And we went to the hospital, my wife and I. And I remember kneeling in the emergency room. We're in the emergency waiting room. They didn't tell us whether he was alive or not. And I was just praying. And that's when all my emotions flooded back in. And so I don't know why God, Spirit gave me that experience. But there was something about being prepared, taking my emotions away to prepare me for this tragic thing that was going to happen.
Oof.
And I didn't realize at the time, and I don't really understand how my emotions being taken away affected that. I don't know that I can explain that, but I tell that story for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's another experience that I had, but and Troxel ended up being fine, but there was a lot of fallout from that accident because there were other children involved or other young men involved, and there was legal stuff and all type of stuff, and it was hard. It was very hard. It was very, very hard. But the beauty out of all that is I completely realized that these gifts, these things that we take for granted, like our emotions, they are gifts from God. They're part of being here on this planet, and they're energies that are very strong, very vibrant, and we have them for a reason. And I always bring it back to mastery, in mastering our emotions, mastering our energies so that we can become creators that create in perfection, just like God creates in perfection.
I'm glad I know that Traxler was okay out of that story.
Yeah, I am too.
Oh, as kids. So you talk a lot. This is a complete segue into another topic. You talk a lot about I am statements. And I know that's something I'm going to jinx myself by how I phrase this. I know it's something I struggle with. But we tend to say I am and then follow all kinds of horrible things about ourselves, making our own reality. So talk about that a little bit.
Okay. I'm going to segue kind of into that. And that is all creation starts with a thought. Okay. And then that thought comes into our mouth, and then we say it, okay? And that's a vibration. The thought's a vibration. Speaking it is a vibration. These sounds that we're making right here are vibrations, right? And then when we speak that vibration, then that is what gets manifested into the universe, into our lives. So anything, if I'm counseling people spiritually, which I do because people just gravitate toward me, and it's not like a paying gig or anything. But when I'm around people and I hear their self-language, so much of it is negative. Well, I'm scared of this, and I hate this, and I wish I wouldn't do this, okay? Whenever you're saying those negative statements, you're actually reinforcing the negative and keeping yourself in whatever you're uttering and thinking, you're keeping yourself in that state, okay? I think I want to, do you have a page number for I am?
2. Chapter 2.
Oh, chapter 2. Okay, because I want to actually, here we go. I think I want to read this opening quote, which is a little long, but it is beautiful. Man goes to great trouble to acquire knowledge of the material world. He learns all the branches of mundane science. He explores the earth and even travels to the moon. Yet he never tries to find out what exists within himself. Because he is unaware of the enormous power which lies hidden within him, he looks for support in the outer world. Because he does not know the boundless happiness which lies in his heart, he looks for satisfaction in mundane activities and pleasures. Because he doesn't experience inner love, he looks for love from others. The truth is that the inner self of every human being is supremely great and supremely lovable. We're all so lovable. We just forget we're lovable. The truth is that the inner self of every human being is supremely great and supremely lovable. Everything is contained in the self. That came from Swami Mukhananda from the book I Am That. So, and then let me read this. But I ams are affirmations, okay? Mm-hmm. Positive affirmations that we can say about ourselves, and that are true regardless of whether we think they're true. Like saying I am love or I am wisdom is really acknowledging the love and the wisdom that's already inside of us, okay? But we don't think about ourselves as love, and we don't think about ourselves as wisdom because we're so focused on the mundane activities of the outside world. But here is a, what are these things called? One second. The word I've been looking for earlier is practices. Mm-hmm. Like the decision about where you're spending your energy, okay? Or whether a decision about life or not life. Those things are practices. So here's a practice that's in my I Am chapter, okay? So, I want you to close your eyes, okay? And the audience, obviously, all should do this. And I want you to say, I am. And I want you to recognize when you say, I am, you're recognizing I am Godness. Okay? So you say, I am to yourself, and I am Godness. And now keep your eyes closed. I want you to say, I am, and I want you to claim your Godness. I am Godness. I claim my Godness. And then thirdly, I want you to say, I am, and as you're claiming your Godness, I want you to claim your Godness in this present moment. I claim my Godness right now. And then sit with that for a second. Claiming your Godness right this very second. I am Godness. I am God. Because God animates us. And if God's Spirit animates us, then we are God. Sometimes it's important to sit in the silence. And I think we're going to talk about that later, but sitting in the silence, in the darkness, in the birthing energy, in the hidden energies, you can find God there. I can stop at any point in time, especially this last couple of weeks I've been going through some deep spiritual energy stuff. I can hear right now, I can hear the hum of the universe. If you sit in the quiet and you sit in your Godness, you claim your Godness, you can hear the hum of the universe. It is all around us. So then, other affirmations inside the I am chapter. I am balance. I am chaos and order. I am nameless. I am the all. The all is completely contained inside of us. I am the light. So I think that's all we need to say about I am.
I found that addition of right this very second to be impactful. That changes the declaration somehow for me.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. I like that word. Why don't you explain that? I started to bring that up when we were talking about hugs earlier.
Oh, yeah. I love the word namaste. A lot of people in the spiritual world run around, they use that word, they don't really even know what it means, but it is so beautiful. And we have a t-shirt, and at some point in time, I'm going to get my t-shirt, Sage Life t-shirt company back up and running, because we have some beautiful sayings. But namaste means the divine in me honors the divine in you. And to me, that is one of the most beautiful ways. If you really understand what namaste, it's the most beautiful thing you can say to somebody.
I agree.
That's
kind of what a hug is.
It's a hug is a physical thing that's basically saying namaste, right?
Yeah, for me.
If you're doing it with authenticity,
yeah,
and if you're doing it out of your heart, then that is a physical manifestation. A hug is a physical manifestation of namaste.
I enjoy that you sign your emails that way.
Oh, thank you.
It's it's a nice thing to read in the middle of your day, and makes you stop and realize that in the middle of all the crazy that goes on around us, that we are divine.